Let's fly around and discover the world! Well, that's the main reason I bought this game in the first place, because I assumed it would be a bit more like Spirit of the North, and yes, I made a video about that game, but with a little bit more fighting, I guess. Well, in a way, it is like Spirit of the North, because there is something really chill about it when you just fly around and explore the world. It also reminded me of the movie Waterworld, because this world is covered in water, it just has a few small islands in it. But it also reminded me of Eagle Flight, a PlayStation VR game where you play as an eagle and fly around Paris, or however you want to pronounce it. And yes, I will make a video about Eagle Flight sometime in the future. And finally, probably the most obvious inspiration for this game, I think, is the classic Panzer Dragoon. So, in a way, this sounds like my type of game. I liked Spirit of the North, I liked Eagle Flight, and I have a soft spot for Waterworld. But I didn't like the Falconeer as much because it misses the mark a bit. Yes, the game does a lot of things right, at least for what it is, since it is an indie game, but it also could have done some things way better. Now, this game actually has a story! Amazing! So in this game, The Falconeer, a game developed by Thomas Sala, or whatever it is, and published by Wired Productions in 2020 for PC and Xbox One, and then for everything else in 2021, you are looking at the Nintendo Switch version here, you are a so-called Falconeer. That's someone that flies around the world of Great Earthsea, commanding a giant warbird. There is a conflict between some factions and... you know what? Really, who cares? But mainly because I have to admit, I didn't pay much attention to the story. But there is a reason for that and I will get to that later. The main meat of this game is the world itself. Because for an indie game like this, the world has a very good size. However, it will feel a bit empty. I mean, it's fine that this world is mostly covered in water with just a few islands in it, or this part as if Moses opened the ocean and went through it but forgot to close the ocean again. So this world somewhat defies logic in a sense, but I mean, that's fine. Overall though, it's actually quite fun and chill to explore this world. Also because visually the game looks quite nice. It has a nice art style and nice colors. And while I personally don't really mind, at the same time it's quite a shame that there is not too much to do here to compensate a bit for the emptiness of this world. Of course, there are side missions you can do to level up your bird and get some cash to upgrade it, but now the actual problems of the game start to show. Because after a while, the Falconeer certainly will become very monotonous. Unbelievably so. The missions are all the same and have little variation even during the main missions. It's mostly either escort and defend a ship, fly to a certain point, shoot some enemy birds and fly back, or fly to point A, get an item and fly back. The problem isn't really the flying itself, because the bird, or birds, you have a multiple choice, actually control quite well, and since the point of the game is exploration and actually to chill out a bit, the time you will need to go from point to point is actually fine. Yes, the nature of this game will be very boring for most people, and it is understandable. But I personally found it to be a relaxing experience. If you want to move forward faster, your bird uses up stamina to fly faster, or the game actually will have some mercy on you, because if you are really far away from the goal, you can skip the traveling. But when it comes to the combat, it is usually way too short and done in just a few seconds, at least in comparison to how much time you will spend flying around. And do I need to remind you that not every mission requires fighting? This might become a problem for most people, especially during the defending of the ships or escorting of the ships, because you won't be able to skip the traveling at all, because the dogfights might happen at any time. Well, but usually it just happens once. The combat itself can also be a bit annoying. Now, sure, this is all a dogfight-like game similar to Ace Combat or something. And while in itself that's fine, it will still get a bit annoying that the fights will all be too short, and here is also where the combat falls a bit apart. Since there is no auto-aim, at least not that I could find, it will get a bit annoying having to aim manually. Or rather, it's not the actual manual aiming that is the annoying part, because that would be actually fine. But the enemies usually fly past you, you have to turn around, but by the time you do that, they fly towards you again. So it will get annoying having to always turn around or fly in circles like an idiot. Sure, you can turn around a bit faster if you do this maneuver, but it doesn't help much. Also, considering the monotonous nature of this game, it makes matters worse. Since the enemy ships and airships move slower, they are far less annoying than the birds or dragon-like creatures, but ultimately the game suffers because of all of this. Okay, you know what, I will make this video short because really there's not much to this game. Certain things could have been done better because even I felt kind of bored in the second half of the game, despite it only being around 10 to maybe 12 hours long. And it's quite a shame because the world is actually interesting and visually it looks quite good. And flying around, exploring, is rather a very chill experience. However, in the end, if the game had more variety in the missions or something, then the Falconeer would have been a better game because, again, it's a shame that the good aspects of it have to suffer based on the weak aspects of the game.